Okay, I want to start with something simple, not a statistic, not a framework, something simpler than that. Technology is a neutral. It has never been neutral though. Every platform, every model, every line of code carries the value of the people who built it, who they listened to, and who they ignored, and what they assume about the world and the people living in it. So the real question is, the one that I want us to sit with today is not what we can build, but the question is, who are we becoming as we build? Hello everyone, my name is Alieu Jagne, founder and CEO of LocaleNLP Foundation, a Pan-African non-profit working at the intersection of African languages, artificial intelligence, and public interest technologies. Over the next 45 minutes to 1 hour, I want to take you on a journey, not an abstract journey about AI policies, but a human one, about who get to exist to the existing digital world and who does that. I want to tell you about the people that I carry with me whenever I walk into rooms like this. When I travel across West Africa for the last 6 months, from Gambia to Senegal, Mauritania to Mali, Cote d'Ivoire to Benin, and now spending most of my time here in North Africa, in Morocco, I meet people who are some of the most intelligent system thinkers you can imagine. Farmers who can read the sky before any app can do. And when they smell, like for example, who knows the smell of the wind and the color of the horizon to know when to plant and when to wait. Market women who run complex credit systems entirely from memory, tracking loans, interests, relationships without spreadsheet and without a bank account. Young people who can repair any hardware or software with almost nothing, turning broken device into working ones, with creativity that no engineering school taught them. So, but what happens when those same people pick up a phone? The system goes silent. And the silence, because the keyboard does not support their language, the public service website is only written in English or French or Arabic or formal Arabic. Voice assistant doesn't understand their accent, their rhythm, and their code switching. On paper they exist, but in the digital world, there is only silence. We call this digital invisibility. And it is not an accident. It is not an accident, and it is not a technical limitation we haven't gotten around to fix yet. I think it's a governance decision. It is a choice about whose voice matters. In artificial intelligence, we use phrases like low-resource languages like Wolof, Bambara, Hausa, Fulani, Darija, Tamazight, and more. Languages spoken by hundreds of millions of people are called low-resource languages. Because of what? Because they have limited detailized data existed. But when you sit with people when you listen to their proverbs, their oral histories, their everyday conversation, you realize these languages are not poor in resources. They are rich, they are deep, they are layered, and they are ancient. What is low is not resources. What is low is investments, tooling, and political willing. So at LocaleNLP, we stop using phrases like low resource languages. We say low investment languages, because those three words change the question completely. Instead of asking, how do we fix the technical gap, we ask who decides which language receive funding, which language get official digital services, and which communities get to fully participate in the digital future. So this is a governance question. and is and that's where today's conversation gonna begin. Every room I walk into, people want to talk about what AI can do now, the capabilities of AI, the benchmark, the demos. I get it, it's extraordinary though. What we can build now would have seemed like a science fiction 10 years ago, and that's a fact. But capabilities without value are just power without direction, and power without direction has a way of landing hardest on the people who were already carrying the weight, most of the weight though. So the question is not what we can build, but the real question is, who are we becoming as we build? Every AI system encoded a value system. In the data it was trained on, in the problem it was designed to solve, and in these languages it was built to speak. In the people who were consulted and the people who were not. Today, I want us to look at AI through three lenses. These three questions, I believe, must be asked together. You cannot ask them separately, because answering one without the other gives you an incomplete answer. And is the GSI. Is the G, the governance, sustainability, and inclusion. And these are not separated debate. They are one conversation, and Africa is at the center of all three. For governance asks, who sets the rules? Who decide what AI systems are designed, how AI systems are designed, deployed, and held accountable? Whose values are backed into the frameworks? And critically, is Africa shaping those frameworks or importing them? It's a real question that we have to ask ourselves. And the second one is the sustainability. Who bear the cost? Every model we train, every crowd service we spin up, every smart feature we ship has a carbon cost, a water cost, sometimes a cultural cost. And dashboard doesn't show it to you, but the planet feels it. And communities living closest to the data centers feel it too. The third one is inclusion. The inclusion ask is, who get to participate? In their own language, on their own terms, with their own stories represented in the data. Not an afterthought, but as a foundation. Govern together, those three questions can make Africa a co-creator, not just a consumer of the AI's feature. So let me take you through each one, starting with the moment where Africa is actually right now. AI is not coming to Africa. Many people say AI is coming to Africa. AI is not coming to Africa, it's already here. In the credit scoring systems that we use, that decides whether a small business owner gets a loan, in diagnostic tools being appeared in the health and clinic sector, in agricultural advisory apps that farmers in 4 countries right now use to make planning decisions, and chatbots and portals that mediate how citizens access government services. Globally, 80% of companies now report using AI in at least one business function. Africa is part of that wave, whether through homegrown startups or imported platforms. And on governance side, things are moving. In 2024, the African Union adopted its first continental AI strategy, a landmark document developed in close collaboration with UNESCO, with the vision of AI that is people-centric, right-based, and aligned with the Agenda 2063. But but here's the reality check though. Fewer than 10 African countries right now, we speak, has adopted full national AI strategies at the point right now. By this year, 2025, researchers tracked AI policy across 24 African nations, found most strategies still in draft with limited enforcement capabilities, and 55 AU member states each navigating this alone. So if we do not govern AI, AI will govern us. That's the hard truth. And through APAC decision, invisible bias, and a system that answers to no one. This is not a crisis. It is a window. The rules are still being written though, and the architectures are still being chosen. So the norms are still being set. Africa has a genuine opportunity to co-author, and comes the next, not to copy what's already have been built, but to design something better. And the AI strategy gives us a blueprint that we can base on. So let me show you what's inside. The AU Continental AI Strategy is not a visionary statement. On need the ambition, there are 5 concentrated pillars that tells you exactly what need to be built. Pillar 1 is data governance and sovereignty. The idea is simple but radical. Africa generates enormous amount of data, from mobile transactions to satellite imagery to health records, but most of that value is currently captured by platform headquartered elsewhere, not in Africa. The strategy call for Africa own data infrastructure, headquarters elsewhere, is above. Harmonized governance framework and a community-level census mechanism, not just who owns the server, but who owns the story too. Our pillar 2 is sustainable infrastructure and compute, not just more data centers. Sustainable ones, regional, interconnected, ideal power by renewable energy with regulatory sandbox, so we can test AI systems before deploying them at scale. Our pillar 3 is skills and research excellence. Africa cannot govern or build AI from outside. It needs a critical mass of African AI researchers, practitioners, and decision makers, people who understand the technical landscape and the social one. This means untapped curriculum, funding research centers, and revising the brain drain. So the pillar 4 is the ethical and inclusion AI. This is where continental strategy does something important. It does not just import global ethical framework, it grounds them in African value, in Ubuntu, in dignity, in the understanding that people is a people through other people. And it puts linguistic and cultural inclusion at the center of what ethical AI means, not at the edge. Pillar 5, continental coordination and governance, harmonizing regulation, national AI council, and potential Pan-African AI observatory. And a focus on priority sectors like agriculture, healthcare, education, and climate adoption, where AI can make the most meaningful difference. most quickly. So the question is not which pillar is most important. The question should be which pillar is your work living in right now? For me, as I'm talking to you, every initiative that we run sits in these architects. Local NLP is a pillar 4, is an ethical and inclusion AI because if the system doesn't speak your language, it doesn't see you. Entrepreneurship Unbox is a pillar 3, skills and research, because the next generation of African AI builders need operating system, not an inspiration. And the third one is AgriBridge Africa, is pillar 1 and 5. Data governance made priority sectors because farmers cannot be data subjected without ever being a data beneficiary. So I share this not to categorize my projects. I share this because I want you, all of you down there, to find your pillar and then go deeper, because we all have a pillar that we fell into. So let me be direct about something. If AI only speaks few languages, most of humanity is locked out of by design. That's a fact. This is not a feature. This is not a feature risk. This is a current situation that we are living right now. Majority of language models, the majority of language models, the most capable AI systems right now, the most powerful Civic platform, they're still centric in French, Arabic, and English. Sometimes in Portuguese too. And they treat other languages as an edge case, as nice to have addition, as a localization projects that can wait. Across Africa, hundreds of languages are spoken daily by millions of people. Wolof in Senegal and Gambia, Fulani across 12 countries, Darija in Morocco, Amharic in Ethiopia, and Hausa across the Sahel. So these are not dying dialects. They are living, breathing primary languages for people accessing healthcare, education, justice, and economic opportunity. So when these languages are absent from the data system, the consequences are not abstract. A farmer who can't read a crop advice in her own language makes a worse decision. A parent who can navigate the school portal in his own language disengage from his child's education. A citizen who can access government information in her own language is functionally excluded from the civic life. And we call this technical people call this a low resource language problem. But I want to challenge that framing directly here today. Not low resource, but low investment. There is no such thing as a low resource language. There are only low investment languages. So the moment you use words low resource, you make it sound like a technical reality. Fixed, inevitable, a matter of data scarcity. That's true. But when you say low investment, you ask different question. Who choose not to fund this language? Which institution decide this language wasn't worth the tooling? Which policymakers left these communities out of the AI strategy? What shape priorities though? And this reframing has real consequences. How public money is allocated and how research agenda are set. And how AI governance frameworks are written. And that's a fact. Multilingual AI is not a feature. It is an accessibility add-on. And it is not something we get eventually though. Multilingual AI is a public infrastructure for digital inclusion. That's full stop. I don't just want to talk about this. I want to show you mm, what it really looked like in practice, because theory and practice are very different animals. At Local NLP Foundation, we build inclusion AI languages and technology for underrepresented African languages. And the way we do it is rooted in three commitments. The first one is co-create with communities, not scraping the internet for data and calling it local. We sit with teachers and elders and radio hosts, youth organizations in the Gambia, in Senegal, and in Ghana. We listen to how people actually speak, not the colonial orthodoxies saying that they should sound like this. We build data set together with consent and context and with care. The second pillar is we treat every language as a first class citizen. Wolof is not a bonus feature. Fulani is not a nice to have. Darija is not almost Arabic. These languages sit at the center of our roadmaps, not at the edge. The third one is governance. Governance is part of the design. Before we collect a single data point, we ask the people consent. Do they understand what their voice will be used for? How do they benefit from the tools we were building? And can they withdraw? Because those are very, very critical questions. That may sound obvious to some, but it is currently, but in the current AI landscape, it is ridiculous. So when communities recognize themselves in an interface, in the language, in the example, and the tone, trust increases, and trust is the real infrastructure that we're building. So because without trust, adoption dies, and without adoption, impact is zero, and without community participation, we are just building another system that sees people as a raw materials rather than our co-creators. So this is also what makes our work relevant to the AU strategy pillar on ethical and inclusion AI. So we are not just writing principle. We are trying to operationalize them language by language, community by community, dataset by dataset. I want to talk about something that almost nobody talks about in the AI conversation, like this kind of conference. I want us to talk about what technology gives us. So we most of this conversation we all talk about what technology gives us. Almost nobody talks about what it takes away from us. So we talked about the cloud. If it lives in the sky, it doesn't. It sits on the ground, powered by very real energy in a real places. Data centers and cooling systems, hardware, supply chain, water, electricity, and mining. Every model we train, interfaces we run, every conversation we have with large language models, there is an energy cost attached to it that most dashboard deliberately don't show you. So UNESCO and UCLA published research earlier last year on energy uses in large language models. And the findings should be a part of every AI strategy conversation that we are having now. If you use smaller models designed specifically for your task, instead of a large general purpose model, you can cut energy usage by 90% with no meaningful loss in performance. If you simply make your prompt and outputs more concise, shorter, and focused. You save over 50% of energy costs just from a better design. And if you apply model compression technique, quantization, pruning, you save up to 45% while maintaining accuracy. So small design choose enormous environmental consequences. And this is what UNESCO calls clean by design, AI building energy efficiency into systems from the start, especially at the interface stage, where most energy actually accumulate because inference happens millions of times a day. So now why does this matter, especially for Africa? Because many of our countries faces constraint and sometimes unreliable power grid, high electricity costs. Shout out to my guys and my folks in the Gambia. Right now they're having electricity problem right now. And related to income and limited access to high-end compute and cooling infrastructure. And the climate vulnerability that makes every adoption, like adoption of carbon ton, consequential. So we are not afforded to import high, like energy hungry AI infrastructure, like architect, design, for context with infinite compute and cheap renewable powers. But there is a flip side, and this is important because we are still at the early stage. Africa can leapfrog. We can design resources efficient AI from the start, rather than spending a decade of building wasteful system. We can try to reform. This is not a constraint. It is an advantage. So if we choose to see it that way, it could be an advantage. I want to say something about data that technical people don't say often enough. Data sounds cool. Rows, columns, tokens, embeddings. But behind every data point, it's a human being. A message sent, a voice record, a story shared, a life lived. When we strip data of its humanity, when we treat it as a raw material to collect, process, and monetize, we open door to extraction. And extraction in Africa, in African history, is not an abstraction. It has a face, it has a name, and it has a long and documented cost. AI landscape is beginning to repair those patterns in the digital form. Data harvested from communities without consent, communities whose voice train the model, but who never sees the benefit, and data sets that underrepresented entire region, languages, demographics, and the systems that then make decisions for those very community. At LocaleNLP, we try to hold one simple question in everything we do, and that question is: did they consent? Do they benefit? Can they withdraw? If the answer to any of these is no, something's wrong. So in practical terms, this means we design data governance before designing data sets. We involve communities in defining what respectful and useful data looks like in their own context. We build tools that feed back into services those communities can actually use, access to information in their language, climate advisory, and for farmers, resources, and for entrepreneurs too. Not just feeding the distant model that someone else profits from. So this is what community-owned AI actually means. Not just a brand, a governance structure, a power relationship, a choice about whose interests the technology serves. And if we do it right, data sets become relationship, and relationship are the only infrastructure that lasts. Let me bring this to ground with two places where I see all of these principles covered though. The first one is Civic Tech. Civic Tech is one of my favorite spaces because it makes something very simple possible, people being heard, tools for participatory, the budgeting, citizen feedback systems, election information portals, and public service directory, all available on people's language, low investment languages. When these platforms are built in local languages and designed for low bandwidth environment, accessible on accessible on basic smartphones that most African actually use right now, and most African actually own. Something big change. Like democracy doesn't need a lawyer or a bureaucratic or a formal letter anymore. It needs a cell phone and a signal. So Civic Tech is a democracy with Wi-Fi. It is a participation without permission. And this is critical. Without governance, the same tools that we're building, the same tools can be instrumental to surveillance of selective responsiveness, of new exclusion, who has access to the data, who has access to the data people submit, and who control the platform. Can people opt out? These are not technical questions, they are political ones. And the second one is climate smart agriculture, AgriBridge Africa. Smallholder farmer access continental products. Continental produce, sorry for that. Like smallholder farmers across the continent in this Africa produce enormous share of Africa's food, and they are already living the consequences of climate change. Erratic rainfall, shifting session, like what happened this year, like soil degradation, new pests and diseases. Climate smart agriculture has three goals: increase productivity, build resilience, and reduce emission. Detailed tools, weather focused, advisory services, market information are central at scale these projects. AgriBridge Africa exists because those tools only work if they reach farmers in their own language, on their devices, with their specific local context built in. Not generic advice from a server in Europe or localized intelligence that account for soil types, rainfall patterns, and market price, and farmers actual situation that they're living in. So here is what I have seen, not with our tools that we are building, but tools that are already existing right now. Farmers don't just use tools if it is right. They trust it, and they share it, and they adopt it, and they become advocate for those digital agricultural tools. Not because people market it to them, or because it actually spoke to their realities. So that is the difference between a tool built for community and a tool built with community. Africa has the youngest population in the world. In many countries, more than 60% of the population is under the age of 25 years old. And we talk about that number a lot, usually as a challenge, as a demographic pressure, as something to be managed. I want to talk about it as a strategy. Africans youth are not demographic statistic. They are the world's largest innovation workforce if we invest in them. And we, through entrepreneurship unbox, our AI-powered startup operating system that we launched here in Morocco and Gambia, I work with young founders across the continent. For the last 3 months, I was in Kenya and Ethiopia. And what strikes me most is every single time when I have a discussion with my fellow young entrepreneurs and young people, is that they are not just asking how they can build a business. They ask how do they build something that matters? How do I use, like for example, how do I use technology in a way that serves my community, not just my bank account? How do I build with integrity in a space that doesn't always reward integrity? So these are the right questions. And we need an ecosystem that takes them seriously. That means access to compute, mentoring, financial instrument, and reward public interest innovations in climate, health, in language, in civic tech, and in governance frameworks that protects communities without suffocating experimentation. So because the people who will live longest with the consequences of today's AI decision are the young people entering the workforce right now. They deserve more than an afterthought. They deserve a seat at the table where the decisions are actually being made. So you are allowed to build different. Your question matters more than your code. So sustainable IT is not built by institutions alone. It is built by people who care enough to ask the hard question and build the answer. Africa has those people, and I believe it. So we just need to give them the condition to lead. We have covered the why, and now I want us to spend a few minutes on the what, specific, actionable, and doable in the next 90 days, in the next 3 months. If you build technology and you write a code, or you design a product, or you run a startup, here are 3 commitments I'll ask you and ask myself to make today, right now. Commitment number 1, right size first. Don't just use large language model because of its access. Check whether it's a right model, whether it's a small model that can serve your need. Before reaching for the largest models, ask whether a smaller, task-specific one works for you. Because the UNESCO and UCLA data is clear. You can cut energy usage by 90% with the right architect without losing performance. Efficiency is not compromised. It is designed by principle. So commitment number 2 is design at least one language beyond English or French. Use existing African NLP resources as your starting point. Like McKinsey, LocaleNLP, we'll be publishing our platform very soon, by the end of next month. They have build data sets. Like build data sets involve native speakers in the evaluation not at the testing point, not at the testing phase, not at the end, but use them as a designing partner from day one. The commitment number 3 is co-design with real community partners. It could be a farmers organization, a youth group organization, or civil society network, where some things, like for example, some things with accountability, where there are people who will tell you when you get it wrong, because you are not just going with your thoughts, but you are consulting with people. So if they are not in the room, that's what I believe. If they are not in the room, they will not be in the model, and they will not trust the model, and they will not trust what the model decide about them. That's for sure. So these are not utopian asks; they are design decision. Every one of them is being made right now by someone. So the question is whether you are making them consequential or you are making them by default. Now, for policymakers and regulators, the 3 commitments are these: align with AU Continental AI Strategy and AI for Africa initiatives. Use the continental framework as a North Star, not imported template designed for different contexts, different histories, and different power dynamics. Like embed multilingualism, data sovereignty, and environmental transparency into your AI rules from the start. Require the public facing AI systems support local languages, and mandate transparency, reporting of energy usage and carbon emission for public funding AI. Make the invisible bills visible. There are so many invisible bills. And create genuine participatory government process, not consulting where civil society present to the panel that already decide. Real co-design with farmers, with teachers, with youth in the room where the decision will happen. So, for ecosystem builders, universities, innovation hub, foundation, accelerators, 3 things: host community dataset sprints, bring linguists, community members, developers together to build ethical governance datasets for underserved languages. Treat this as an infrastructure investment, not an outreach. For fund AI public interest fellowships, give young people the time and resources to work on climate resilience, civic technology, and language inclusion, not just fintech and e-commerce. And for governance across board, dialogues connect hub, universities, and regulatory across the continent, share practices, build continental backbone. Africa doesn't need 55 separate AI governance experiments. It needs a learning network that they can share. So I want to do something little different. Everything I have shared today, the governance framework, and the language refrain, the energy numbers, and the community models. It is only matters if it turns into action, and action starts with decisions, a small one and a specific one. So here is what I would like us to do today. I cannot see the room, but what I want is take 60 seconds. Think of your role. Are you a builder, policymaker, researcher, ecosystem connector, or a student? Identify one concrete thing you can be realistically do within the next 90 days?
Right.
I'm not done yet. So I give you 1 minute, like 60 seconds, to think and identify one concrete thing.
Yeah, I think. Just wait. I'll translate the exercise. Quelques minutes pour vous tourner vers la personne qui est debout et puis voir en fait quelles seraient votre contribution personnelle à l'IT responsable. En fait, 60 minutes pour être plus exact.
It's not going to be a vision statement, not a strategic priority. Just one action, something a person could actually observe you doing.
Oui, j'en ai parlé. Il va bien.
So now, what I want is, I want you, Huda, just pick one person from the group. Just pick one person. Let them share their name, their role, and what's the one thing that they think of they can do within the next 90 days. You share your name loud so that people can hear you, your role, and one commitment that you have think. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, Alieu, so we have an answer.
Okay.
Get rid of WhatsApp.
Thank you. So everyone in the hall heard your commitment. So what I just want to close it is, sustainable IT is not a product but we buy. It's a practice we build together starting today, and I would like us to start it today. I want to close by addressing a narrative that I hear all the time in boardrooms, in policy discussions, and in international development circles. The narrative goes like this: Africa is behind. Africa needs to catch up. Catch up to what? To whose vision of artificial intelligence? To whose mistake? To systems already been redesigned because they cause harms at scale. To architects already been questioned because they consume too much energy. To governance framework already been revised because they exclude too many people. So I don't believe Africa is late. I believe Africa is right on time to build something different. So we have the youngest population in the world, a generation that hasn't been told what's impossible. We have language diversity that, if embraced well, can make AI system more robust, more trustworthy, and more human. We have continental AI strategies that is explicitly people-centric and ethical-driven, not as constraint, but as designed by principle. And we have to live experience of what happens when technology are imposed without consent. The experience is not deficit. It's not deficit. It is wisdom. The kind of wisdom that tells you what not to repeat. So my message to you all, to all of us today, whether you are a builder, you're a policymaker, a researcher, or simply someone who cares about the future, is this: systems we build today will outlive our job titles that we have. They will share how people access healthcare, justice, and education and opportunity for years, possibly decades. So if we build them well, with inclusion, with care, with humanity, with genuine participation from the communities that they affect, those systems can be something we are proud to hand to the next generation. So if we don't do this, there will be something it will be something that we spend the next generation apologizing for. So what I will leave with today is sustainable IT is not just low emission, it is higher dignity.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Alieu.
you.
I have to say, Alieu has some health issues, but he insisted on being with us tonight. So, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hmm? Yes? Yes. See if you can hear.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alieu.
Thank you.
For your presentation. I see something on World Africa is not great. But
Yes.
I think Africa is great. Why?
Okay.
Before changing or something like that, we should change some habits that we have in our continent. Our continent is not ours. It's not ours. Yes, we live in it, but someone else from America, from Europe, it's all what we have in our Africa. So we have to take something, and that we are going to be on the right path. It's not like, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was more an opinion than a question, I guess.
Yeah, that was a more opinion than a question. But thank you for that insight.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone.
Take care of yourself. I hope you will recover soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Have a blessed day.